Tell us about gratitude.
Yeah. Gratitude is used in almost every culture in the world. That gratitude is highly valued in ancient cultures, like in biblical times. For someone to not be grateful was considered one of the worst things that someone could do, really. But it continues today. To be grateful is a central component of being human. To acknowledge receiving good from someone else, and to not take advantage of the other or take the person for granted would be the opposite of that, right? We have, as Christians, we're grateful to God, right? That's maybe where we learn our first gratitude. First gratitude is probably grateful to parents, right? And being able to be a small child, being grateful to parents. And then as we grow and we learn about God and our relationship to God, we realize He gives us all good gifts, right? Every good and perfect gift comes from God. And so we have this sense of gratitude back to Him. And that ingratitude is actually considered one of the motivations of many sins that we have, are actually kind of rooted in ingratitude. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, ingratitude, that what is that idea? Like the anti-gratitude.
Right. Right.
What is it?
Like, we all know this, right? So you go out of your way to help somebody, right? Maybe you have the person in front of you at the grocery store line, and their kid really wanted to get this thing, but the mom says, "We can't do it today, honey. You're gonna have to put that thing back. I thought I could, but I can't. And you're like, hey, here, I'll just get it. It's just like $5. I can help you out. And we do like a little gift, right, to the person, and the person in response says back to you an ungrateful or an ingratitude type of a thing, like, okay, and they take the money and they buy their thing, they turn around, they walk away, right? You would be so offended at that. Like, even if it was just $5, you're like, well, it was just $5. But still, there's an expectation that if I do something kind for you, something you don't deserve, a gracious act, then my response back will be, thank you for that. I really appreciate it, right? And it's one of the first things you teach children is how to say thank you, right? Mm-hmm.
What do we know about people who have a grateful heart, or have a paradigm of gratitude, the way that like they live? What does our research indicate about those people?
Right. There's actually a plethora of research on gratitude now. So if you'd asked that question, and we as psychologists asked that question 30 or 40 years ago, we wouldn't be able to point to anything except philosophy, experience, and Christian teaching. But we actually have studied it now as psychologists too, and we can actually show from hundreds of research studies that grateful people are happier, they're less depressed, they're less anxious, they have more healthy relationships. In fact, when you look at the relationship between gratitude and marital happiness, you actually find a pretty high relationship. And you can imagine, right? Like, if I'm married to someone who I do kind things for, and that person never says thank you, that's hard on the marriage, right? But if you have someone and they do the smallest thing and they're always saying, thank you for that. That was really great. I so appreciate that. And there's just a sense of appreciation going back and forth between partners, and gratitude, and hey, I noticed that you did this little thing. And no one can notice every little thing, but there's this norm of gratitude and appreciation. Those marriages, they just kind of sail through some of the difficult things in life because there's this norm of appreciation. It's pretty good.
Now, is gratitude, well, sure, I'd be grateful if my spouse was worthy of my, if he did anything that I could be thankful for.
Right. Yeah.
So is gratitude an external thing or an internal thing?
Oh, it's both. It really is a bit of both. So it's really easy. What you're talking about is that pain, defense, offense cycle, right? Like, to get into that cycle of like, I'll give when you do, right? And I'll help when you do. And I'll be grateful when you reach a level, right? It's a kind of a demanding attitude underneath. And it does have a kind of ungrateful type of feeling underneath that. So there's an internal feeling of that, like, I deserve, right? And while everyone deserves to be treated with respect and basic care, in marriage, most of the time, people in decent, medium to good marriages are better to each other than the basics, right? They don't just do the basics with each other. They actually do kind things, good things, gifts of things. They give a nice gift at a holiday, right, or a birthday. Or they say nice things to the other person, or they listen well for a stressful, I come home and my spouse is, upset about something at work, and I try to listen, and that's a way to show this kind of underlying grateful kind of thing happening between us, so that he can be grateful that I'm listening, and I can be grateful that he's sharing his life with me, and I get to be a part of it, right? In the everyday minutia of living. And so there's so much to be grateful for, but it's so easy to get stuck in that pain, defense, offense, right? And only focus on the negative and the things that are wrong in the relationship, and not see all the little things. Yeah.
What does gratitude have to do with marriage?
Yeah. Gratitude, I think, is maybe one of the most important things that we can do in marriage. This reciprocal appreciation. I'll even tell you a story. I had this couple that I saw in counseling. It was probably one of the most difficult couples that I had ever seen. And they were in a very negative cycle. And every week we were trying to break that negative cycle. They get in this negative cycle all week. They come in, we try to break it, we make some progress, things are going in the right direction, they're getting some understanding, they're really trying to listen to each other, and then they get right back into the negative cycle within like 2 hours, right? On the drive home, right? They're already back in this negative cycle. And I just was like throwing my hands up. I'm like, I don't even know what to do. So I threw a Hail Mary, right? And there's the confessions of the marriage counselor, right? I threw a Hail Mary and I said, this week, I'm going to ask you to do something really strange. I'm going to ask you to every day write down 3 things you are grateful for about your spouse in a journal. Are you willing? Like, you seem at the end of your rope. I feel that. I feel that with you. You try to do something just completely different. And they said, okay, we'll do that. We'll write down 3 things. And we clarify what that was. It doesn't have to be something that happened that day even. It could just be something that happened in the past, or something that they're grateful for, a trait about that person, the kind of person they are, anything. And they did this for a week. That one thing turned that relationship around in a way that was shocking, really. It's actually become my go-to thing for a couple that's involved in a pain, defense, offense cycle that they're having a hard time getting out of, is, can you on a daily basis show gratitude, right, for this other person? And it transcends it too, beyond just this relationship here, between 2 people. It's really the horizontal, the vertical as well, the relationship and gratitude to God, right? When I'm grateful for my spouse, who am I grateful to? My spouse, yes. But I'm grateful to God for giving me this person, for shaping this person, for all of the good things that have happened in my spouse's life, that are now gifts to me. It's got 2 dimensions to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with, I wish I could be grateful, but my husband doesn't attend to me, doesn't care for me, or my wife is always irritating, accusing me, or I feel attacked all the time. How can I be grateful when I'm overwhelmed with or just nothing? They're not even there. I'm not grateful. They're not even plugged in. They don't care about me. They're into their own world, and I'm like as valuable as the lamp on the coffee table.
You can feel that sometimes. I think every marriage gets into that situation sometimes, right? You don't have to be married but a short time before you feel like, I've been ignored, right? Or I've been disrespected, or I don't feel valuable to you. You're valuing, time with other friends, or ministries at church, or your work, and where do I fit with all of this? And so it's very easy to get into that with every couple. So there are times and places, I think, that are really helpful to make that gratitude and have that lens. And it can be small things. It can be during a worship service, right? Giving thanks during a worship service is a common thing to do. Can you throw in, and thank you, God, for my spouse, for their existence, right? For the good in them. You can ask God to help you. Like, God, I am not seeing anything good. I have a total negative mindset, and I'm really hurt. How do I be grateful in that moment? And you can do it in the everyday, daily things. You don't say, hey, all of these negative things aren't happening. You don't like negate those, right? Those still need attention. But alongside that, to not forget, it's never always bad, right? To use a double negative. It's not possible for there to be no good in a person. And so can you find that little bit of good? And then can you be grateful to God for that little bit of good? And when you do that, it actually changes your brain to begin to see it. Because what happens in that negative cycle when people are stuck there is other people will see positivity in your partner, but you can't see it because you're stuck there.
Yeah.
And if you've ever had a fight with a partner and everything is wrong, and then a few days later you feel better and you look back and you're like, what did we even fight about? Why was I so upset? Right? We get these mindsets. So when you're not in the mindset itself, you can really work on that daily Thanksgiving or regular Thanksgiving for your spouse.
Okay.